Hi guys, so today we have an election prediction. I did one of these before, but I decided to do another one of Bernie Sanders versus Ted Cruz, the Republican. So this was as if a 2016 alternative history between Bernie Sanders, the Democratic nominee, and Ted Cruz, the Republican nominee. So let's get right into this video. West Coast, probably going to go to Bernie Sanders. I can't see Ted Cruz making that competitive. Going up to all of the northeastern states, I would consider New Hampshire safe because I don't think that Ted Cruz's northeastern appeal is very good, and I think that Bernie Sanders from Vermont could win in New Hampshire. I also think he'll win in all of Maine. I think that would be pretty easy for him. Going over to all the safe Republican states, there aren't that many actually. Alaska, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, most of Nebraska except one electoral vote from there. Texas would be safe Republican because of Ted Cruz from that state. But across the South, only a few, most of the southern states, actually, these states wouldn't necessarily be safe. I could say that would be safe, but Missouri, not so much. So let's fill in now all the battleground states. Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia would be safe Democratic. West Virginia is a battleground, and I'll get into the reasoning behind that. Whoops, I forgot to fill in Illinois. But we're just going to go through all the safe toss-up states. So there's 198 electoral votes that are toss-ups that we don't know who's going to be the winner. But I think that the Rust Belt would pretty much easily go to Bernie Sanders. I also think he'll carry New Mexico because, New Mexico is much more democratic. That doesn't need much reasoning, New Mexico. Going over to the state of Ohio and Iowa, I think that Bernie Sanders can take both of these states because I do think that Bernie Sanders can appeal to Midwestern voters much better than Ted Cruz can. But going over to the states of Nevada and Colorado, another two states where I think that Bernie Sanders can pick up his lead. Going down to Florida, that's a bit iffy, but it's probably going to go to Bernie Sanders. Ted Cruz is not the best candidate the GOP can run. Up to North Carolina, that's really a pure battleground. Indiana and Missouri, those are two toss-up states. Arizona being a toss-up. So now that we've done a more realistic scenario, 332 to 137. So, and there's 69 battlegrounds. Let's say that Cruz somehow wins all of them. Georgia, North Carolina, West Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, and Arizona. But that's not really likely to happen. North Carolina, let's actually go with these last remaining battlegrounds from poll closing time. So North Carolina, that is a state, if Ohio and Iowa are going blue, North Carolina is probably going to go blue. Going over to a state like Georgia, that really is just a pure battleground. But I do think in the end that Mr. Cruz can carry that state. In Indiana and Missouri, I think that Ted Cruz could actually carry both of these states. We have two states we get to fill in: the state of West Virginia, the state of Arizona, and the state of Nebraska second. Nebraska second I'm going to give to Bernie Sanders because I do think that he has a pretty good Midwestern appeal. But West Virginia, this is a very interesting case because when I first did this video, I gave West Virginia as solid to Cruz. But now, after thinking over it and after some comments about West Virginia, I'm actually thinking that this could become really, really competitive. West Virginia would be possibly the most contentious battleground of this state because Trump won West Virginia by such a big margin because of who he is. He's a businessman. He's an outsider. Ted Cruz, not necessarily businessman outsider, and one of my commenters said that, Ted Cruz is quite unpopular, not very popular in West Virginia, and that Bernie Sanders is very popular with Democratic base in West Virginia, and there are quite a lot of Democrats in West Virginia and quite a lot of Republicans in West Virginia. So I actually think, now bear with me, this is going to be a very close state, but I actually now think that West Virginia can go to Bernie Sanders. Now, I do think that Bernie Sanders, this is going to be a really close state, no doubt about it. But West Virginia, Mr. Cruz is not tied to the Trump administration at all. West Virginia Republicans wouldn't like that Cruz criticized Trump in the primary of 2016. So that is kind of my reasoning behind West Virginia. Going over to Arizona, I'm calling this one for Ted Cruz. It's a final revised electoral map. It's so weird seeing West Virginia red, but final electoral map. 353 for Bernie Sanders, 185 for Ted Cruz. So it's actually the Republican Party should be happy they nominated Trump, and the Republicans should be happy that the Democrats nominated Clinton, because otherwise it probably would have been a landslide year. So final electoral map. 353 for Mr. Sanders and 185 for Mr. Cruz. Mr. Sanders from the great state of Vermont. Whoops, I didn't mean to fill that in. And Mr. Cruz from the great state of Texas. So, thank you for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.